In 2017, a German publication compared the labor of African migrants in modern Italy to slavery. Working on plantations in brutal conditions, these men receive only 35 euros a day. This horrified the Germans, who considered 700 euros a month a slave wage, which is quite telling. But is it really that far from the truth? There is only one way to find out, and you know what it is. We will take a glimpse into the life of a real slave. Of course, the conditions and lives of slaves varied in different eras, so we'll have to invite a few guests from the past to have the full story. This video is brought to you by Thorum. Take a look at these rings. They have rings made from 4-billion-year-old Gibeon meteorite and genuine 65-million-year-old T-Rex bone. If you are a fan of Vikings, they have Odin ring, the Norse god of war, the Thor ring, and all of them are crafted by hand. Head the link in the comments and use promo code LIVINGHISTORY to get 20% off a truly unique ring. To avoid making the video too long, we will break it up into several episodes. Our first guest is Omari, a typical Greek slave from 410 years BC. Omari was taken from Africa as a teenager by Greek warriors during a raid, and he has been living in Athens and working for his lord Adonis Adamos ever since. He does whatever he is told, as he doesn't have much choice. The Greek tactic was to minimize the possibility of revolt by having mostly foreign slaves, like Omari and his 34 fellow slaves who came from 12 different regions. While Omari learned Greek, he couldn't communicate with anyone in his native language. Disunity among the slaves made it hard to agree on rebellions, although they did happen, but not for Omari, who had a clear plan. History books don't lie. A slave in ancient Greece was the property of his owner, and even his potential children automatically became the owner's property. Moreover, Omari had no right to vote or participate in the public life of Athens. His owner had complete control over him, from ordering him to give a neck massage to sending him to work in the mines. However, there are a few nuances that significantly change the picture. Firstly, in addition to slaves, any foreigner in Athens was automatically disenfranchised. Even a wealthy person who arrived in Athens was called a metic and was not considered a citizen. Women were also excluded from voting, and only 10% of the city's population of 300,000 were citizens. However, the most important thing is that oppressive slavery, as often depicted in movies, textbooks, and histories in ancient Greece and specifically in Athens, did not make much sense. While Adonis Adamos could mistreat Omari, he still needed to feed and maintain his property. Although there were instances of cruelty, the majority of slave owners were guided by pure rationalism. If one owned a slave, why not make money from him? One way to do this was by utilizing Omari's construction skills. Adamos quickly realized that there was money to be made from Omari's handy abilities. Poorer slave owners would bring their slaves to a construction site, profiting from double labor. However, this also meant that the slaves needed to be fed and taken care of, which often did not make economic sense. As a result, many slave owners chose to simply release their slaves. Additionally, mocking a slave could inadvertently cause their death, which was considered a serious crime. Athenian law prohibited such actions, as it was believed that murder angered the gods. Even wealthy slave owners who committed such a crime would face hefty fines and sometimes even military exile to atone for their actions. Therefore, most slave owners acted rationally, which was also Omari's plan. What does this mean? It means that our Omari lives separately from his owner, Adamos. He works as an ordinary builder, repairing the temple of the Erechtheion. Thanks to the advanced nature of Greek literature, we have incredibly clear documents about the wages and work of that era, which can be found in a book called The Organization of Public Construction in Ancient Greece. In a nutshell, an ordinary construction slave might well have received more money per day than an architect. There are even records that clearly state that the average slave could lay 413 bricks per day. Let's say that our Omari is a bricklayer who works side by side with free people, receiving exactly the same wage. The only difference is that Omari gives a certain percentage of his wages to his owner, Adamos. The Greeks understood that free labor wouldn't be of good quality, so they had slaves working alongside free builders. However, the slaves of the free builders were mostly engaged in rough work, like assembling scaffolding, and they were not motivated to work in a professional manner. Everyone knew that no amount of kicking their asses would make a forced laborer do a good job. Our Omari, on the other hand, had a different story. It was critical for him to work well in order to make good money, even in spite of the owner's tax. Thousands of other slaves existed under this scheme. Artisans, cooks, blacksmiths, and even dancers. They even coined a special term for them, those who lived outside. The ancient Greek writer Xenophon even remembered such slaves as excessively impudent, for they could not be distinguished from free men. They seldom made way for citizens, and could even scold a citizen without being punished. Now, let's talk numbers. The monetary system of ancient Greece was simple. The basic unit of currency was the drachma. A drachma consisted of 6 obols, and 100 drachmas amounted to 1 mina. There were also talents worth 600 minae, but they don't play a role in our discussion. The myth that the average wage of a Greek artisan in the 5th century BC was 1 drachma a day is a complete lie, as shown at least by the example of the builders. As we have already mentioned, a slave in construction could lay an average of 413 bricks a day. The figures are taken from the work of Michiko Dimitri and the 3 slaves who worked in parallel. In 25 days, the boys laid 31,000 bricks, yielding 187.5 drachmas for the 3 of them. Divided by 3, we get that for a typical month of work, our slave Omari received somewhere around 62 drachmas. Suppose the master took 50% and Omari had about 31 drachmas in his earnings, or a little more than 1 drachma a day. What could be bought with this money? For 1 drachma in the 5th century BC, one could buy 1 gallon of olive oil, 22 pounds of barley, or 2 gallons of expensive wine. Also, 1 drachma was equivalent to 3 tickets to the theater, a full visit to a brothel, or even half a sheep. At the same time, the owner also had 31 drachmas a month from the flat. The system suited everyone just fine. No one forbade slaves from making purchases, as we have already mentioned, since they looked no different from ordinary people. Even less fortunate slaves, unlike our Omari, were still able to earn at least half a drachma a day in their jobs and survive without issue. Of course, a master could consider reselling a slave or taking them back home, but such actions were not common and were later regulated by laws. In fact, in Athens, slaves could demand a change of owner if they could prove cruelty or severe conditions. Eventually, most slaves desired freedom, which could be granted by the owner through a direct decree or a will. Alternatively, the slave could demand freedom by proving their autonomy in court. However, this was difficult since going to court cost up to 200 drachmas, which was equivalent to many months of our Omari's salary. Often, slaves saved up this money, but they could also negotiate with their owners to be set free. The plan that Omari proposes to Adamos is a typical arrangement between owner and slave. Adamos does not care about the social status of those who bring him money, and Omari plans to offer the same terms as before, but in return for his freedom. Even after gaining freedom, Omari will still owe money every month, but this situation is familiar to many people in 2023. Slaves in Athens even had their own financial organization, a type of common fund called eranos, which functioned as a bank. Slaves throughout Athens invested money in eranos, and often borrowed money to pay for their ransom. In the second edition of The History of Slavery in the Ancient World, there is a record of the price of ransoming a slave. For example, one man in Athens ransomed himself for 13 mines, which was equivalent to 1,300 drachmas, or about 5 years of work for our Omari. It was difficult to save up such a large sum, so the slave used eranos and borrowed 7 mines from there. In return, he had to contribute 1 mina to eranos every year for 13 years. This was equivalent to credit. Even after former slaves paid off their debts, they often continued to donate money to eranos to help their fellow slaves. Omari also donates money to eranos and negotiates with Adamos to gain his freedom. He gets lucky, and someone might say we chose the perfect example. In 500 BC, a wealthy man named Nisene hired 1,000 slaves to work in the mines of Lauria. Their lives were much worse, but still not hopeless. Many slaves worked in the army, and as you may know from our video about the Spartans, there were even slaves fighting alongside King Leonidas during the famous feat of the 300 Spartans. In ancient times, the owner-slave relationship was considered something commonplace. and not inferior to family ties. Slaves were everywhere, but in Athens, one cannot consider them an extremely oppressed people, at least compared to the rest of Greece, where torture by starvation and physical mutilation were commonplace. However, we are discussing events that occurred before our era, when human life in general was considered worthless. We did not choose this positive example on purpose to try to disprove the truth that slavery is bad. We chose it to show that the very concept of slavery is a relatively modern invention. In the past, it was an ordinary part of human life, and in life, as we know, even the rich weep and the poor become rich. In many comedies by the Greek dramatist Aristophanes, slaves are the protagonists, and in them they often interact as equals with their owners, argue with them, and even point out things. In many aspects, the life of our Omari was freer than that of millions of people living today, and this is what we need to keep in mind as we study history. The main lesson is that people are great at labeling certain words for profit, and the thousands of examples of modern slavery do not cease to be, though they are called differently. Well, that's it for now. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also suggest your ideas for future releases in the comments. See you soon, folks!